My new Creality K1 printer. Not a sponsored video, I can only wish, and not a review per se. It's been well covered on the internet by now. So instead, I hope to add a little value to the discussion, to touch on a few things that have not been so well covered. I've been eyeballing these for a little while, but I was holding off on pulling the trigger on the purchase for two main reasons. One is I'm frugal. I already had an Ender 3 Pro, so it's not as if I was printer-less. And two, the early reviews of this were not so hot. I guess Creality was a little bit quick to the market here, and there were issues, mainly with the extruder and the firmware. It wasn't quite ready. So what changed to make me do it? Well, they fixed the extruder problem, and they fixed the firmware problem. And what about me being frugal? Well, my wife and I play radio bingo on Saturday afternoons from time to time. She won. And what does her winning have to do with me getting a 3D printer? We have an understanding. Either one wins, it's 50-50. My half of the loot was $750. This printer, plus the camera, yeah, it's sold separately and you probably want the camera right off the bat, plus taxes, was $752.63. Now you tell me that's not a message from above. It's mad money, and I got myself a new printer. Core XY technology, it's the bed, raising and lowering, that provides the Z-axis. Now, I don't know if it's the machinist in me, but I do prefer these metal rods to the competition's carbon fiber rods. Now these things are crazy fast, right? 12 times what an Ender 3 does. Now I could try to run it here to give you an idea, and I wouldn't do it justice. Just like others on the internet that show you this, you have to be standing here to truly appreciate it. And I'll bet your reaction will be the same as what Doris and I's reaction when we first saw this go to town. We laughed. It's crazy. Now they provide us with a few sample G-codes that have been sliced at that maximum 600 millimeter per second speed. And they also provide us with a small spool of their Hyper PLA, which is supposed to be specially formulated to attain those high speeds. Notice that I haven't even broken the vacuum seal on it, because I want to see what it can do with the filaments that I have on stock, like this eSun PLA Plus. And no problems. Full speed eSun PLA Plus, and just have a look at how smooth these walls are. Amazing. Here's the metal build plate that comes with the K1. Notice that I haven't even removed the protective cover. I ain't gonna use it. I'm a glass bed guy. I've been using that for a couple of years. I came off my Ender 3. No glue stick, no hairspray. The solution is to wipe it clean with a little bit of water and some Dawn dish liquid. Secret also is the initial layer should be very hot, like the bed should be around 70 degrees C for PLA, and then if you allow it to cool down to room temperature, you'll just pick up your print off the bed. No prying, no twisting, that easy. That's why I'm a glass bed guy. And that little articulated cat STL that they provide is a really good torture test for bed adhesion. If you can print this on bare glass, no brim and no raft, and you don't get the feet to curl, and you don't get these little tail segments to fly off, then you know you got your glass bed heat settings dialed right in. Notice I'm not using any of these little clips to hold the glass onto the bed. The reason we don't need those clips is that the glass adheres very well to this bed, like almost too well. So be forewarned, that's on there. Now it's not permanent. By heating this about 80 degrees C and by applying constant firm pressure on the corner, it can lift off. So here's a complaint that some people have. See this track here that carries the PTFE tube and the wiring for the hot end? It has a tendency of hitting against the acrylic top. And the solution is to add a riser to the lid. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There are 3 or 4 options shared on Thingiverse. I'll leave a link in the description to the one that I chose. He offered 2 heights. I went with the taller one. There was a promotion at the time of purchase, and Creality threw in 3 full rolls of their Ender Series PLA filament. It's what I used when I printed the riser for the lid. Have a good look at the wall finish. Really smooth walls. Beautiful. You gotta love these small STL thumbnails. Now I'm running the latest firmware version at the time of this video, which is 1.3.1.28. And I've got 2 small bugs in here, and I would appreciate any of you that own one of these, if you're also experiencing these same 2 bugs with this version of the firmware. 1, if I want to delete a G-code, I cannot do it from the laptop over Wi-Fi. I must do it here on the screen. When this printer came out of the box, I was able to do it on the laptop and the screen, but that changed with this firmware upgrade. And the second is that when I slice within Creality Print and I put an initial bed temperature that is different than the remaining layers, the bed will execute it. But if I do the same thing for the nozzle, the initial temperature will not obey what I put in the slice. It's going to keep a constant nozzle temperature that I set. Let me know, guys, in the comments if you're experiencing these same 2 things. True to their word, Creality on that last firmware release allows the printer to be rooted, and then allows you to get away from the Creality version of Clipper and to put in the official version, and then to be able to have mainsail and or fluid graphic interfaces on here. I'm not going to be too quick to do that. I'm going to let the dust settle down a little bit, and it's going to have to show me some real advantages before I go through all that hassle when Creality Print is not all that bad, like actually pretty good. And finally, here's something else that you don't see discussed on the internet too often. So look at this, it's drawing 5 amps, all right, at 120 volts. So we're close to 700 watts here. Sure, when it's reached bed temperature and reached nozzle temperature, there's going to be some duty cycle going on, and that'll go down on and off a little bit. I'll say that this thing uses maybe 400 watts on average as it's printing. And we tend to factor the cost of the filament and disregard the cost of electricity, whereas it is a factor. And if we can print at 4 times or 6 times the speed of a Ender 3 over the life of this machine, I think it becomes a factor. You're going to save some power over its entire life. So if you guys agree that I've lived up to my goal of adding a little value to the discussion here, hit the like, subscribe if you haven't, help the channel out a bit. Talk to you guys soon.